with pretty much an almost finished component. Once you reach to this stage, you have your basic composition in place, your imagery, your primary massive sans serif, could also be a serif, but massive slab type, and your secondary type that is much smaller. And I have it here. You could design and place the secondary type where you like, and as we've already gone over, the primary type as well. There's a lot of variation to the kind of composition you could build, but once you have this basic composition, now you want to think about your three very basic primary parts of art and the elements of art: line, shape, and texture. And you can start with whichever one of those that you want. So if I were to start with line first, to build here, two ideas just come very quickly and easy to my mind. I would get my pen tool. I would do a no fill up here, make sure it's set to shape and not a path. And I would want the stroke to be, I think, the same color as this orange type here. And if I wanted to be sure exactly what that was, I would go to my type tool, click into this type, delete that, so I need to hide this composite real quick and go back to here. Okay, so rather than doing that, because my type actually changed due to the camera raw filter, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on my type, get my pen tool, and go to my stroke, and then here to the color choices. Whenever I select that, I have a color picker, my eyedropper tool that comes up, and I would just hover over that type to get that orange color right there, and then click OK. And then Command 0 to get back, and I would probably, put just a line like so there, create a new layer here real quick, and maybe create, and if I wanted, which I do, I would first, because I want another just straight line from here to here, but I want to make sure that it's the same length as this square here, this rectangle here of my image. So I'm just going to pull out these guides real quick. Put one at the end there, another at the end right there, and then click with my pen tool. And if I hold shift, it'll make a straight line and do 45-degree angles as I move from there. So I'll hold shift just to make sure it's a straight line here. Okay, then I'll go ahead and create a new layer real quick to get that off, and I can just click and drag these lines so that they're off. So there's one, right? I think that already improves my composition. And you don't want to overdo this, right? You want to be thoughtful and intentional in using these elements of art. You never want to go overboard. So here I have line, and I don't necessarily have to use all three of them, right? Maybe that is line, shape, and texture. Those three elements of art there. Maybe I just like the way it looks with line in these two places, and I don't end up really liking shape. It's a good idea, though, to try to think and to try to experiment to see what you might get, or to see if it leads you in a good direction. So with shape, you can come to our shape tool, and I would just think of, what kind of basic shape might look good. I like to use rectangles and ellipses a lot. I think I would probably, with this one, stick with the rectangle, and maybe I would just see about some of this negative space, not a whole lot of it. All right, I don't want to be too overpowering. And maybe fill it with that orange and a nose stroke there, hide that there, and then maybe duplicate it, Command J on that layer, use my move tool, and just see about maybe moving these in squares, little squares in places that might look aesthetically good, but not overdone. Trying to keep with a good balance within my art. So I kind of like that. You know, I could hold my shift button, put all of these into a folder, turn it off and on to see if it's, you know, how much I like it. I think I'll go ahead and keep it off. So, but I like these lines, so I'll keep that there. And the last thing I would experiment with is maybe one or two textures, not overdone. So I'd go here into my textures. Here's a fabric texture. I'll just throw that on there real quick. And this is all experimental. I have no idea how something like this might look. The key though is subtlety and to not let it be. It's like this is far too overpowering. We do not want it to be overpowering. We want it to add to the composition in a subtle, interesting way. So that's too much. Let's find maybe we can try some scratches. Let's see if one of these works. I'll throw that on there. And I'm just holding my shift button as I move this around, and then my alt or option button to expand it so that it fits. Hit enter. And then this is black, and I want to knock out the black, so that means I'm going to want a screen kind of mode or an overlay, lighten. So color dodge works pretty good. You know, I like linear dodge as well, and one of the things to look at is maybe where specifically you might like the text or the texture. So if I go to color, if I go to linear dodge here, I think it looks pretty good just here on the main picture. So I can add a quick layer mask to my texture here, get my marquee tool, and draw out a square across my snake, and I can fill that with black real quick. Command, so black is set as my background color, so if I hit Command Delete, it deletes it out of there. But of course I want it right there, so now I just need to invert my mask. So there we go. So I'm kind of liking that. Maybe another, a few more scratches might do somewhere else. Hit enter. So that's clearly too much. Let's try, rather than dust scratches, maybe some crinkled paper here. And then let's see, good blend mode. Okay. Multiply looks like it might work pretty good. So let's go to multiply, and I need to get rid of this yellow texture. So what I could do is just do a quick black and white adjustment here and clip it into my crinkled paper here. So that just gets rid of that, and I kind of keep my crinkled texture. So you can kind of see the process here. You know, maybe I would go back and just hide this. Oh, I think I kind of like that too. But you can see the process, right? Not being overpowering with my textures, being specific, being thoughtful, finding ones that work, kind of going through here and experimenting. I think, you know, let's go to textures here. Maybe not too specific to brutalism. Let's see what this concrete texture might add. Obviously very relatable to a brutalist aesthetic, and I think I'd want to make it black and white as well. And let's see if we get a good texture going on for it. Yeah, I think overlay ends up looking quite well. So I might even stick just with that texture or paper texture. So there I've gone through my three main elements of art, right? I started with line and thought about my composition. I thought about shapes. Then I decided I didn't really like the shapes. They added too much to the composition. It could have been the other way around. Maybe I liked the rectangles and I didn't like the lines, so in which case I would take the lines away. And then I thought about texture. The key idea in all of this is to not overdo it, but to build your design and composition thoughtfully and intentionally. Okay, and I think this would be my ending point for my first poster, and I would just want to make sure again, as I continue to go throughout the rest of my posters, the same important aesthetics are retained, right? I would use this concrete in the rest of mine. I would consider how to use line as in other ways in the rest of my posters, as well as making sure to use the same gradient color harmony scheme and the thoughtful use of my negative space here as well.